I've been so looking forward to getting Professor Hamamoto back. I've been praying Diddy News would break. We've had some kind of stagnancy for a few weeks. And finally it did. Of course, when I was in London, it all broke out last night about the superseding indictment, more people making allegations. But we're going to cover all that. We've got Professor Hamamoto for the first hour, and then we've got Lionel coming in at 10 p.m. UK. And viewers, thank you for all the people who have sent questions in today. If you do have any questions, put them in the chat. And as usual, Professor Hamamoto's links are in the description box. And he's got an excellent YouTube channel. I would advise you go over there and see all the deep dives he's been doing. So great to see you, my friend.
Mr. Atwood, thank you very much for the invitation. It's just wonderful being with you here today with your lovely audience, of course. I'm looking forward to this conversation.
I appreciate that. It's been a while since we did part 3. So a lot has happened. But the main thing last night was this superseding indictment. So what was your interpretation of that development?
Well, my initial reaction is that we have a new sheriff in town, so to speak. His name is President Donald J. Trump. And I really think that he and his people want this indictment and the trial and the outcome to stick and to really send a message out to the captured state, DOJ, the military, the corporations, the university, of course, the media system, because, of course, we know that Donald Trump has appointed 3 civilian ambassadors to Hollywood, one of them being Mel Gibson, of course. So we're going to talk all about that today. But my initial reaction to answer your question is that they put in some mean dogs out there on the other, fighting the other side. And I looked up those attorneys too, because I want to do a little bit of profiling of some of those characters. There's some pretty high-powered attorneys. But I thought the most interesting development, I think this turn of events goes together, is that they brought in Maureen Comey, Comey, to be one of the lead prosecutors on the Shaun Combs case. And she is the daughter of James Comey. And you might remember his name being related to the Obama administration and the Stay Behind network that subverted Trump #1 administration. It was Donald Trump that fired Comey. He was the director of the FBI at the time. So his daughter is now on the prosecution end. So the question is, and this is from my own experience with attorneys and having gone through the process myself as a target of a couple of investigations, they're all on the same side. The attorneys in the American system, the British system is probably very similar, but they're not loyal to their client. They're loyal to the bar. So having Maureen Comey in that position, I think she's a Harvard Law graduate. She's comes from an elite law school. Most of the people who are defending, with the exception of 1 or 2, who are defending Combs come from these sort of second-tier law schools where they really teach them how to be mean and win at any cost. They're like ghetto fighters. But Maureen Comey comes from that elite stratum. I think her position there is to help, excuse me, is to contain the damage.
Take your time. You got a water handy? There you go. I'll join you.
I'm sorry, I'm not used to speaking. I'm in isolation usually. But I think it's there as a strategy of containment. They don't want this to go beyond Shaun Combs and his network, because we can talk about this if you like, because as most of us suspect, this goes way to the top. At the highest levels of not government, governance. These are the unelected bigwigs that really control the New World Order. And when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, the prosecution of Shaun Combs is really small potatoes for these people. They just want to make sure that they're sealed off from any of the repercussions. And I think that's her main function right there. And if we understand that, then we, the people who are also trying the case on our own, independently of the crooked DOJ and the judiciary and the bar, see, we're going through this ourselves because of programs such as yourselves, and we can render through the court of public opinion our own judgment if we know these different streams that interconnect when it comes to Shaun Combs. I'll give you another example. Few of us know that the commercial corporate music industry has a very long history with intelligence agencies. And as I was prepping for this talk today, I came across a article by an academic from Britain, by the way. You might want to speak with her. Let's see what her affiliation is. She's at the University of London, the School of Advanced Study. Okay, so this is high level material. So I came across an article and she referenced this book here. It's called White Malice. The subtitle is The CIA and the Covert Recolonization of Africa. And I will connect the PDD case and all the other takedowns of prominent Black Americans with this recolonization process currently. The fight over resources, uranium in particular, metals, in competition with China primarily, it all is of a piece. But she points, and I had this on my library shelves, fortunately. So I looked it up, and sure enough, there's a whole chapter that talks about Louis Armstrong, the jazz great. He was used as early as 57 through 1960 as a propaganda pretext to go into these global tours of Africa. Say, see, look, here's a Black person. We're so good to our Negroes here in America. And of course, Louis Armstrong refused to tour the Soviet Union in 57 because he was protesting the conditions of the American Blacks during the peak of the civil rights movement. Not many people know this because he's been portrayed as just a funny entertainer, right? Hello, Dolly, that type of stuff. But he was a political, I wouldn't say he's an activist, but he knew what he was doing. So they sent him to Ghana, the State Department, and it's a CIA operation in order to set the groundwork for more and more political assassinations of African leaders like Patrice Lumumba, right? And we are in the season of assassination here domestically. What the CIA and the FBI and other intelligence agencies have been doing continuously since the end of World War II is going in and putting their own regimes in place. And we see that happening in the United States of America. And the American people only figured it out within the last 4 to 5 years, thanks to people like yourself, independent media. Because certainly we know that the legacy media, the corporate-controlled CIA media, has intentionally failed us. So part of my purpose here is to try to bring in all these seemingly unrelated threads to show how this particular line of inquiry goes far beyond TMZ celebrity fare. Because that's what the mainstream and the indie media are making it out to be. It's much more profound than that. It has to do with the very nature of the emerging New World Order that's going to be technocratically grounded and operating under these principles of AI. It's all in the news right now, including the music industry, by the way. Most of it already is AI. So they have to move all these troublesome people out of the way. That's part of my argument that I made quite a while ago, which I called out this whole PDD situation as an intelligence operation from the get-go. Anyway, that's sort of a long-winded way to begin our conversation.
No, that was a brilliant opening statement, and I appreciate that. And you touched on something there, because since the last time we spoke, there's been a huge campaign against my channel due to, I believe, the reporting on Diddy and maybe Jay-Z. And it culminated a few days ago with me having to remove 90% of my Diddy content, including some of your episodes. Episode